The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policies or positions of any organization or entity. The content is for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered professional advice. Listeners are encouraged to do their own research or consult a qualified professional regarding the topics discussed. By engaging with this podcast and related social media content, you acknowledge and agree to this disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policies or positions of any organization or entity. The content is for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered professional advice. Listeners are encouraged to do their own research or consult a qualified professional regarding the topics discussed. By engaging with this podcast and related social media content, you acknowledge and agree to this disclaimer. Freya, the flaxen-haired goddess, she who was beloved by cats, goddess of satyr, love, and war, she who wears the falcon-feathered cloak and wears the amber bersingamen. We ask that you guide our words for understanding and protect us from any entities that may cause harm. If this is your will, mote it be. Welcome, friends. Come and sit by the hearth, for there are no strangers within the Coven of Wing and Fang. I am Foxfyre, and I'm here with my lovely co-host.
Hi, I'm Raven.
And we're pretty much here to kind of get you guys started on your magical journey through as we discuss different types of folklore, little tips and tricks for just basic occult practices, and anything else that we can really come up with as we go through. This is something that I know I've wanted to do for a while, and of course, my friend Raven here, we've known each other for a while, so it's something that we both kind of, after a little bit of talking back and forth, we figured out that's something we want to do. So I guess the most important part is, who are we and all that fun stuff. So first things first, we have decided to do code names, mainly because from a lot of where we're at, there's a lot of religious issues and political issues. And of course, that's stuff that we don't wish to talk about on the show. You kind of have to bring it up just a little bit. So it's more to hide our identity because some people still do not take kindly to the occult and witchcraft and stuff like that. And it's something that is actually becoming more prevalent as people realize that some of the more popular monotheistic religions are no longer it, so to speak. So basically, again, my name's Foxfyre. I'm from Eastern North Carolina. I met Raven about 7-8 years ago is what I think we finally figured out.
Yeah.
Playing D&D, of all things. Her and her now ex-boyfriend used to come over and we'd play every Saturday, somewhere around there. And just really got to kind of know each other. And then, of course, her and her boyfriend broke up, and then me and her started talking still and kept up with each other and all that fun stuff. So what kind of got me interested in the occult and all this fun stuff was when I was, of course, younger, magic and stuff like that was really big on TV. So Hollywood basically screwed me a little bit when it came to magic and stuff like that. So, I used to watch the Dungeons and Dragon cartoons or any cartoons that had like a wizard or a spellcaster of some sort in it. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's really cool. And then, of course, as I got older, they start bringing out Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Charmed and all that stuff that came out around the, what I like to call the golden era of TV. And I kind of was like, that's what magic is. I really need to do that. That's going to be really cool. So that kind of got me interested in it. And then after a while, I realized that, okay, that's not really how magic works. That's magic with the C and not magic with a CK, as I like to put it. So it just it kind of dawned on me. I'm like, crap, this is not real life. Doesn't do that. It's completely different. So I think I was about 18 and I decided to kind of start looking into Wicca. I looked up, I can't remember his name. He's a really big author within the Wiccan community. Scott Cunningham, thank you.
He's so popular.
He is so popular. A lot of his books are really good, have a lot of good like base knowledge that you can take from. I started with Wicca for the Solitary Practitioner, and that kind of gave me like an idea of kind of what magic really is, magic with a K. So whenever I'm talking about like not real magic, I'll make sure to specify. So, it's a lot of ritual, it's a lot of energy. A good way to put it is energy work, a lot of manifestation of, like, your will, the rules and laws that be, that kind of what you can and can't do with magic, or what you shouldn't do with magic. So, it was a really interesting read. And then I picked up his herbalism book, and that was kind of interesting. I had friends who I used to hang out with, and of course they all liked, the incense and the candles, and we did like funky little things on our own, like spells, quote unquote, to try to be cool. And so it's something that's kind of always been there as a kid with the occult. And I really didn't understand the meaning of a lot of the practices that went behind it, because kind of some stuff we're going to talk about on this first episode is like some of the basics you need to know before you actually start working with some of this stuff. Because no matter who you are and what religion you follow, there's always going to be something that's going to try to creep in on you and try to like drain your energy and drain and take stuff away from you. Possession, that's 9/10 of the law, all that kind of fun stuff. So it's kind of good to know how to protect yourself, which is kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to start this podcast, was not just to protect yourself from, stuff that could hurt you when you're doing work, but but from actual folklore and cryptids and stuff like that, because that stuff is out there. People say, "Oh, it's just your imagination." I wouldn't go into the mountains of the Appalachian and whistle if you're smart, because that's calling things that you shouldn't call. So, I'm a little superstitious. It kind of comes in the what do you want to call it? The wheelhouse of following the occult. You have a little bit of superstition that follows you.
Just a
Oh
little
yeah,
station.
yeah. And then another really good movie too that kind of got me into magic while I'm thinking about this was Practical Magic, of course. Like, you think that that's what magic's really going to be like, and it's like it is nothing like that. It's not like thunder flashing or excuse me, lightning flashing and rolling thunder and all that fun stuff. It's actually a lot more. I think the way to put it is it really depends on who you are as to how peaceful it feels or how the energy feels when you're working it. So yeah, just kind of like Hollywood kind of got it started for me, and then as I got older, I kind of realized that that's not how it really works. And then from there, it really became just a natural curiosity, I think. And then after that, it's kind of where I'm at now. So one thing we're going to kind of talk about too is everyone who is witch adjacent, as I like to put it. We all basically have a gift of some sort that has been given to us. Some people, it right off bat, or have a feeling that you know what it is right off bat, whether you're healing or whether you know how to do certain things with plant. Like green witches are amazing with plants. They can't kill a plant if they try. If I touch a plant, it's going to die typically within a week. It's just my luck, as to put it. But from what I have discovered, and actually from what Raven helped me discover, is that I'm actually an intuitive. A lot of it comes from just following my gut instinct. So I do a lot more divination style things and follow my instinct on how something feels. It's gotten better as I've practiced more. I've been able to follow it a little bit more and everything. But for the most part, it's actually, it's different all in all, because people, when you sit there and say, I have a feeling that this is going to happen, and people are like, no, it's not. And then it happens. It's like, yeah, that was my intuition. And my intuition is very emotion based, is a good way to put it. I do have, I don't want to say prophetic dreams, but I have had moments of clairvoyant dreams. A lot of them tend to be more emotion feeling, like something's when I have it. So if something good's going to happen, it's usually like this really good feeling dream, but I don't remember the dream. If something negative's going to happen, I usually have like a dread or sad feeling when I wake up. So it's really interesting how it's kind of played out. And then, so it's been really interesting of a journey for me to kind of discover myself in this light. Of course, Raven has helped me every step of the way because she kind of got me into it just a little bit. Just a little. I was already interested and she just made it so much worse. That's the best way to put it, right?
Oh, totally.
Totally. So now it's just kind of like, okay, so now I know what I'm doing, kind of, sort of. And I think that's something else that we're hoping to let everybody know too, is everyone practices differently.
Hmm.
Everyone does it different in their own little separate ways. I know I'm running my mouth, but I figured I'd introduce myself first and then let her introduce herself. So that's of course what's going on right now. But it's everyone practices differently. Everyone does things a little bit differently. You could Google the same thing and come up with like 10 different web searches on the same thing with people saying you should do it different ways. So it's really what feels right for you as a person who's practicing. I know when I do tarot cards or anything like that, that typically I don't go to my guardian spirits or my elemental guardians. Typically, I go more towards Freya because Freya is my patroness, which I think we discussed some of that in this too episode a little bit too, is my patroness, and she actually is the goddess of basically divination magic. So for me, it just makes sense. Why am I going to bother for 4 to 10 spirits to help me guide when I can go to her and get her guidance and insight when I'm working? So, but yes, back to the patron and patroness thing. Basically, everyone has, I guess the best way to put it is a male and female aspect that protect them and help guide them in the right direction. Am I right on that or wrong on that?
Right on that. Depending on your beliefs and your own practice, you might talk to multiple male or female deities, but you usually have like those primary two, even if you have multiples. So yeah.
Right. So that's kind of where I sit at, is that I have my female deity, which is Freya, which I'm like, who wouldn't want Freya as their main deity? And then, of course, then I also have Horus as my male deity, who is very, it's like I said, I feel things is more emotion than rather than any other way. So Freya is very matronly, is a very powerful matron figure. She's very, she's caring, but she's also a little no nonsense, and she's very strong willed. Like you can, it's kind of the feel. However, with Horus, it's like a all over pressure. It's emotional pressure. It's like he is definitely no nonsense. He is definitely basically he's like what you think of a father figure, this is exactly him. It is a father figure who is looking down at you, telling you you're doing this wrong. That's kind of how, not, well, not doing it wrong, but looking down at you and just pressing on you to let you know this is what you're going to do. It's kind of that feel. So yeah, it's interesting when you're working with stuff like this. Um, yeah, so basically, again, like I said, this first podcast is mainly just kind of an introduction of who me and Raven are, and then also to kind of give you guys an idea of where we're going, what we're hoping to achieve. And then we're going to have a really just quick discussion on some basic practices that we all should kind of try to follow, and just little bits of tidbits of information that kind of help out. And then, of course, and then, of course, at the end, we'll have a closing prayer with Freya since she's currently guiding our instincts right now and helping, keep us protected for anything that could potentially cause us harm, whether it's metaphysical or physical. So basically, that's it about Foxfyre. So, Raven, go ahead. That's so you to talk about yourself right now.
Well, I don't know. You're a hard act to follow, I'm just saying. But I am currently down in the Florida area, but kind of grew up for most of my life in the Pacific Northwest. So when you were talking about like superstitions and like, like Bigfooty type entities, stuff like that, that really kind of rang true with me because even though I was raised Catholic, we would still talk about like certain things like, oh, if it gets really quiet out at night, you just go inside. Don't draw attention to yourself, all that kind of stuff. And so that kind of, when I was younger, that kind of got me started in my interest in metaphysical stuff and magic. We would watch, surprisingly for me, we would watch all these different like documentaries and stuff and like anthropology documentaries about like different cultures and magic and all this kind of, all that stuff. And that kind of spiked my interest. But then also like reading about magic and witches and all these different things, I found it very interesting, but I didn't feel like I could, look into it and like reach out to that side of what felt like me because I was raised Catholic and it was very much a no-no subject. But when I got to college over in North Carolina, um, I wasn't really practicing a practicing Catholic anymore, I guess you could say. It just didn't fit for me. It didn't feel connected. It felt like going through the motions with nothing there. So that's when I started looking into different religions, which was spurred by actually a anthropology of religion course I took, which covered Wicca and a couple other religions, and that's what got me looking into Wicca. And I also discovered Scott Cunningham. It's funny how he's kind of like a gateway writer.
He's your
But
gateway. That's how you get started.
exactly. Like him and what is it? Silver Ravenwing or something like that.
I know who you're talking about because I had her book, Dancing with Dragons, which was supposed to be
Yeah,
like a high level Wicca guide.
yeah. No, she had a lot of good books. I still have one or two of hers. Like, I still have pretty much all the books that I have read, just like sitting on a bookshelf as reference.
I think there was one she had called Riding the Silver Broomstick.
I have that one.
Okay, that's yeah. I remember Dancing with Dragons because I was crazy about dragons when I was a lot younger, and I was like, oh, I could summon a dragon, and then come to realize that that's really not what it
Not,
is.
not how it works. Well, that's what you were saying, like the cinematography and like Hollywood, it kind of makes you expect like I'm gonna be able to like summon this dragon and it'll all of a sudden show up in front of me, or there'll be lightning and there'll be a poof of smoke and da da da. Or even like some of the folks like on TikTok when they're doing like their POVs of like, oh, how it is talking to your deities or whatever, they make it very dramatic because, it's for the people watching,
Right,
which can be discouraging for like younger practitioners because they're not seeing that. It's like, oh, it isn't exactly like I thought it would be from Hollywood, or so it's something interesting like looking at. But I spend a lot of time like on social media and stuff, so I see a lot of that. And it was interesting to me because I got into it through books like Scott Cunningham, Silver Ravenwing, all that stuff. And seeing like the people who are getting into it on social media, I'm seeing a lot of them be super discouraged where I'm like, oh, I didn't feel that discouraged because I didn't have this expectation sitting there. So it was interesting. But yeah, I started out looking at Wicca with them, and then I kind of did a deeper dive into anthropology of religion before actually like starting looking at magic myself. And so I didn't really like stay specifically like Wiccan because it didn't fit exactly what I wanted, but I do take a lot of inspiration for my practice from like the ideals, like the whole harm nobody, all that stuff. Like I don't want to hurt anyone or take away like, their autonomy. So I
right.
like that about Wicca. And I've applied that to my own practice, but it's
Which I was gonna say, there's nothing wrong with Wicca. Like Wicca's
yeah,
amazing, especially if you can find your own coven or group to kind of be with, or if you want to be a
exactly.
solitary practitioner. It's great. It's just for me personally, I think probably the same for you. It's a lot of ritual work, like a
Exactly.
lot. I don't need to spend 2 hours trying to fit summon the four elements and then my deities. I need to be like, if I'm doing something, I need to be like, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Let me get my instant gratification and be done with it.
No, yeah, I feel that. Here's the funny thing. I want to be that person who's like, oh yes, I have these intricate, giant rituals that I do. Mwahaha. Just like that's not me in reality. I'm like, I will do some incense and prayer and stuff like that, but it's hard to carve out the time for me to do all of that, especially as like a solitary practitioner. So you have to do all the preparation for yourself, you
Oh
know?
my God, yes.
But yeah, no, so that's kind of how I got to where I am. I know you had mentioned how we each have like a gift or a talent that we've been given. And I found it funny your comment about the plants. You were like, oh, I would give them a week before they're dead. I'm like, you have it up on me. I'd give them like 2 days max.
And that's also another episode, everyone, is going to be like the different types of witches. Because there's like a
Oh yeah,
whole slew of different types. Because you've got
there's like
like
a million.
kitchen witches, energy workers, sound witches, green witches. It's like there's a lot out there that you just don't
Yeah.
realize exist, that these people just hone in on this one skill that they've picked up. So
Mhm.
it's just so it's like while I may not be a perfect green witch or kitchen witch or anything like that, there's someone out there who fits the bill.
Don't you try and diss yourself on the kitchen, Witcher. You are amazing in the kitchen. I'm just saying. I've
Yeah,
had
well,
your food.
okay, that's I love to cook. That is a true statement, and I cook and I do a pretty good job. A lot, and it's one of those things where we all talk about. I think that everyone pretty much says is like witchcraft is handed down through generations, and I think that's one thing of when you are a kitchen witch. These are recipes that have come from your mother or father and been passed down from from your grandparents to them, and so on and so forth. So
Yeah.
for me, it's like I don't see myself as a kitchen witch because I don't do magical cooking and stuff like that, but it's more of I have a passion for cooking, so I know how to cook is a good way to put it.
Like, I feel like there's that thing that like you're really good at in your like practice. And then like you were saying, like you're not gonna be like the best Green Witch, but you might have like certain things in there too. So
Right,
like you don't have to pick, oh, I'm only this. You're like, oh well, I'm mostly this, and then maybe one of these other things like supplements it a little bit.
right. It's like I was saying, I was born to be intuitive, but I've picked up other things along the way just because you can practice other things to get you there to be good skills to have.
Well, also I think like a big thing, like you were saying, like towards the beginning, it's a little hard to be accepted in our culture for this,
Mm-hmm.
being witchy or pagan or however you want to call it. A lot of the time, that's something that is not encouraged, it's not valued, it's not accepted. And I feel like a lot of the time, like intuitive people who have like those prophetic dreams or like the hey, I don't want to do this because I know without even going into it, I know it's not going to end well, there's something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You just like, you get told to like, oh, you're just being a coward or no, 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 we don't talk about that. No, no, shush, shush. Like it's tamped down a lot. Like you're not supposed to trust that instinct. And you're just
Right.
supposed to like go along. And that's where
And
I have some trouble with like the intuition stuff is I I have it. It's like a little voice at the back of my head that's like, "Hey, remember, we don't want to go left there because da da da." And I'm just like, "Oh no, it's not going to be a problem." Turns left, and there's an accident in front of me. Great.
right. It's like I think I've recently told you when we were talking. I had two voices in my head. One that was basically my screaming anxiety at me saying, "You need to do this, this, and this." And then the other one that was very stern, no.
Yeah.
So it's like I had two different intuitive things that I wanted to do, but I ultimately listened to the stern no because that one felt like the rational one is a good one way to put it.
I would put that as like that's like your higher self one that like no 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 I know how this is gonna go, trust me, and the other one is the very much physical like right now self, you know.
Right.
But yeah, well, I lean more towards like hedge witchery a little bit as well as like kitchen magic, but
Got you.
yeah, that's where I go.
So what? Okay, so I have to ask this then. What is a hedge witch? Because I think, like, what's it called? Like I've seen the magicians, and they would talk about hedge witches, which were basically people who weren't powerful enough to be inside of the school, but could still do high level things. So that's like a very misconstrued thought of head witchery. But
Well, kind of what it is like, and of course we'll like go into this in more detail like in the types of witches episode, but it's more like they walk on the hedge, like they're kind of, I think the term a lot of people use is ride the hedge, where it's like you've got one foot in this world and one foot into like the next world, so you have a lot of like spirits and stuff that are like dropping by or going around, and you kind of have to balance between it. And one of my favorite things is it took me forever to figure out that's where I was. My sister actually had to tell me, like, hey, if you, I had sent her like this funny, you know, those things you see on Pinterest where it's like, oh, what type of witch are you type things?
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, if you say anything other than hedge witch, I will come down there and like, meh. So I was like, what do you mean? And so I looked at it and I was like, oh, okay. So the biggest example I have of that is when I took my driver's ed test to get my license. I had points taken off because I stopped at a crosswalk. And I still swear to this day, I saw a woman walking across the crosswalk in like a, you know those like yellow raincoats?
Yeah, the old school ones.
Yeah, like the old school ones. And the lady who was sitting next to me doing my exam, she was like, "Why did you stop?" I'm like, "Oh, there, never mind," because I looked back and she wasn't there.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. So that's kind of like what hedge witching is to me. Like being a hedge witch is you're kind of here in this world, but you also see like the little bits of like remnants from people's spirits or, that type of stuff.
Got you. That's kind of neat. I never knew that was a thing.
Well, it might also have to do with that my two primary deities. My male primary deity is Anubis, and my female primary deity is the Morrigan.
Yeah, I was about to say Anubis definitely makes sense.
Yeah,
I still
but
won't.
like,
Sorry, I know, but I still won't forget that time I asked you. I asked you were, you were doing some of your stuff for me, and I was just like, okay, random question. I said, if you can ask Anubis this, is my cat doing okay? Who passed away years ago? And you actually said that basically the Egyptian Lord of Death laughed or chuckled in some sort of
dude,
way because a lot of people don't ask about their pets.
yeah, no, my interactions with him are surprisingly, everybody thinks that like death deities are super like strict or like evil or this, that, or the other, and a lot of that's from media too.
Hmm.
But he honestly has the most hilarious sense of humor.
I mean, think about it. You're a god or goddess of death. You've got to have a good sense of humor sometimes.
Oh yeah, you would have to, I would imagine.
So yeah, but so it completely makes sense that who your god and goddess are. They kind of what's the word I'm looking for? It makes sense that you have more of that hedgy. That
Yeah.
sounds right. Hedgy sense to you. It's like I've been doing research about Horus and Freya more because, if these are my patron and patroness, I want to know who they are, what they do. And it's actually kind of interesting that, Freya is said that Freya's face represents the phases of the moon, which is, going from the from going from the child to the maiden to the crone, which is
Oh,
also the symbol of Hecate as well. But then you've also got Horus, who you have the right eye of which was the eye of Ra, and then you have the left eye, which is the eye of Horus. Well, the eye of Ra, of course, represented sun, and the eye of Horus represented the moon. So I have two deities who are basically moon based, which is amazing because I've always been kind of a moon person to begin with. And then also, both of their favorite flowers are daisies. And I'm just like, what are the odds that I get two deities that I can kind of like align a little bit? Horus is the falcon headed god. Freya is the goddess with a falcon cloak that she would let others borrow for, I think, shape changing and stuff like that. So it's like you start thinking about it, and it's like, did these deities choose me just because they happen to get along, or how did this happen? That's a good question, actually, is how do you get the patron and patroness that you get? I don't know if that's like a random draw or.
I feel like it's something, this is like my belief. I don't know if it's like part of yours, but I feel like it's something that is decided before you're born into this world in this iteration. It's decided, like what your main purpose will be, like what you're supposed to do in this lifetime. And then a deity will be like, that aligns with me. I claim them this time. I feel like that's kind of how it is, maybe.
And I think that makes sense, especially if you're someone who believes in reincarnation and stuff like that. Because
Yeah.
there's times where I swear it's like I mean, you hear kids who say the words when they're like 3, 4 years old. They're like, "Hey, I remember when I was an 80-year-old man and I was doing this," and it's like, "You were never an 80-year-old man." It's like, don't discourage him. Same thing for
Or
people
like,
who had imaginary friends. Sometimes that's your spirit guide, or that could be your house guide, kind of showing itself to you. I think I had a imaginary friend named Robbie who was a duck-billed platypus. So that could just be that's what I could associate it with. It was that he looked like
yeah,
a duck-billed platypus to me. And I mean, there's so many different types of critters and stuff like that that I mean, eventually when you hit a certain age, you lose that kind of innocence, so to speak,
yeah.
where you no longer see that stuff like you used to. You can feel it as you get older and as you practice, but to actually see it again, I feel like there would have to be a lot of different work that has to go into it.
Also, like, if you look at how our society reacts to people after a certain age being like, oh, yeah, I hear this person or I see this or da da da. I feel like that's something that we kind of train people to, we train people out of.
Right. It's like I
So in a
have
way, yeah.
oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good, hon. Go ahead.
I have like a great grandmother who passed away when I was 19, and it's the oddest thing because I can hear her clear as day some days in my head, and I can hear her say something to me, like not even advice but like reassurance and stuff. And it's interesting because it's one of those things where you hear the family stories of, well, she was a holy woman so she laid hands on you and healed you. And I think that's where that connection between me and her kind of came from. So I think
Okay.
that's why I can still hear her sometimes.
Totally. That would make a lot of sense.
Right. A little bit of transference is all I to put it. So anyway, so was there anything else you wanted to add? I'm so sorry.
No, I'm good. I like the interplay, the talking now. I think it's good.
Yeah, yeah. It's a really good feel, right?
Hmm.
So I think we both kind of agree on that we're looking to hopefully achieve the same thing by doing this
Yeah.
podcast is basically to educate. I've always been a person who said that, education is your biggest tool. If you give people knowledge, it takes away a lot of the negative stigma that comes behind things, and people kind of understand what you're doing. It's kind of like I've told a lot of my friends who are Christians, like pagan religion was here first, and then you have your
Okay.
Christian religions. Christian religions has borrowed heavily from the pagan religions because that was the best way to get people to not transfer, but to convert to them, which also when you have a sword to your neck, that's a whole different story. But
Oh, if you want to go through like the full anthropological, like archaeological, cultural evidences for where religion started to how it changed from animism to polytheism to monotheism to whatever,
mhm,
don't get me started. It's a
that would
lot
be a
of fun
really
stuff.
good episode.
We should totally do that sometime.
I actually think I have that on a wish list, so to speak.
Oh, there we go.
So yeah, but I think primarily that's what we're doing. We're trying to educate, a little bit of fun, a little bit of conversation, trying to get everybody an idea of kind of what's actually out there because, you know, like speaking about cryptids and stuff and folklores, like looking at cryptids, I was doing like Googling like, North Carolina cryptids, Florida cryptids, and like there are a lot of the same cryptids in North Carolina and in Florida that do exist.
Yeah. And also, like, if you go up the East Coast, they may all have different names, but the descriptions for some of them are very similar.
Right, like the stink ape, which is out here on the eastern seaboard, is exactly the same thing as Bigfoot.
And the skunk ape and all these different things. I'm just saying,
Right, and
I
then I
believe.
think I think between here and Florida, there's something called the Wampus cat. That was something I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, that looks interesting, and so there's a lot that I want to kind of unpack and do and talk about. So I'm hoping to really get this going really good. So I think what we're going to do for the last little bit, because we're trying to keep this about an hour for all of our episodes, unless we get hit something that's really good is I think tonight we really want to hit just some basic practices to get you started and kind of get you ready for when you want to do work. And when I say work, I don't mean like go somewhere and go get a paycheck. I mean actually doing magic with a K work. And these are just some really good base basic practices. The first thing I actually want to speak to myself is, so with every, like I said, with every one of our episodes, we kind of want to do like a little prayer to our deities to kind of guide us in the right direction, make sure we're doing some good work on our end. You kind of have to be careful when calling for a god, for when you're calling for a deity. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
These deities are old. I mean, they're ancient. They've been here since before God. Excuse me, let me rephrase that. They've been here since before God was put into Christian religion. My point of view on how that works is that it's kind of how I've always seen it, is that there is an omnipotent power, but it just has many facets and many faces, and that's where we get our deities from. That's my thought process.
Like a diamond, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like a diamond. There's many different sides to it. There's many different facets. It's beautiful. It's all inspiring. But the thing is that you're calling to specific facets to do specific things. So I'll let you talk about grounding, but I'll talk about kind of what I do when I
Yeah.
call to them. I think the biggest thing that I like to do is to make sure you call out the specific aspects of your god or goddess that you're working with. Because I have a friend of mine, come to find out he is actually his patron. Before I even asked who his patron was, because I divined his patron and patroness for him, I asked who his patron was, and it said it was Norse. And I kind of already had talked to my friend, and he said, he's like, oh yeah, he's like, I love Loki. Loki is my favorite Norse god. That's kind of who I follow. And before I even asked, was like, okay, I'm getting ready to ask a question, and it just felt right. I said, that's not the question I want to ask you. Are you Loki? And it told me yes.
Oh,
So it's like, yeah, that makes sense, because that person is definitely a Loki follower, in my opinion. So when it comes to doing, again, when you know who your god or goddess is, do a little bit of research. It's like I said, I do a little bit of research on mine to figure out who they are, like specific aspects, whether it's big or small. Like Freya has a lot of things that I know about her because she's kind of mainstream right now with how Nordic religion has kind of picked up again.
mhm.
So of course, she's goddess of divination, magic, love, and war. She has the Persingman, which is a amber necklace that she got from the Bersingers, in the Poetic Edda. I think it's Poetic Edda. I could be wrong, but basically, it's a story of how she got it. She's Queen of the Vanir. Like, there's a whole lot of things about her. So when I go to actually talk to her, that's the first thing I do, is let her know, like, this is who I'm calling to speak to. It's like, I have your phone number. Let me dial it directly in.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how I do it. I don't so much as do a lot of grounding, but so much protection work. I will say that when I do work to, like when I was doing the patron and patroness, because I did not know who I was inviting into my home, my own personal protection is bringing up my four elementals, and then bringing my god and goddess into the circle, and then asking who's going to be bringing someone into my home, and then working with them. And then of course you always say the biggest thing, including even in Ouija, if you ever work with the Ouija board, make sure you tell that person thank you and goodbye.
Oh, I don't play with the Ouija board.
Oh, I would never touch a Ouija board to save my life, after there have been
Uh-uh.
too many horror movies on that mess. But I mean,
Oh,
it should be your basic. This patron or patroness has stepped into your home, kind of give you like a mini blessing. So it's like you want to tell them thank you for acknowledging that I am human and that I have called you here. And even then, working that, sometimes the deity will be like, no, I don't want to be known, and they'll walk away. And it's like,
yeah.
okay. So they're best way to put it, they're just as human as me and you. They have autonomy. They can tell us yes or no. And then if I'm having, and then typically when it comes to like my grounding, usually it's just basic meditation for me. I'm learning how to meditate again. It's actually kind of fun to do. I recommend myself personally, like when I'm doing workings, I try to either have some sort of Palo Santo or sage going as I'm doing my stuff, because that's a very cleansing scent, or a very cleansing herb and wood, just to kind of, just a little bit of oomph when I'm doing my work, just so I can make sure that this is as pure as it can get under my
Mhm.
side. Again, it's like I said, these are just my basic practices of what I do. I don't have as much knowledge and what's the word I'm looking for? Knowledge and practice on that kind of stuff as probably Raven does. So I'm gonna let you take it away and kind of talk about some of the stuff that you do, because I'm sure you do a little bit more than I do.
Well, I feel like it's like there's not a right or wrong way to go about it, but protection is like the main thing you need to focus on starting like going into it before you even like start contacting deities, in my opinion, because there have been a couple times where I've had like just trickstery like elementals like come by trying to pretend that they're a deity for somebody or just like not the actual deity who I'm supposed to be contacting trying to come through. That's why I'm like, I gotta have the protection up first. I use like a lot of physical things for that, like crystals in the corners of the house and like some black salt around the exterior of the house for me. And then a lot of like grounding and making sure like the energy that I have and that is present in the house is clear and it's not like stagnant from a week of like a bad work week, you know? So that's where I do like the Palo Santo. I'll take that and go around and use it as like a cleansing for the house just to refresh the energy, make sure that it's still flowing, it hasn't like stagnated at all. And once I'm sure that like the protection and the energy is going well, then I'll go into, like you said, using all the different honorifics and titles and stuff so that it is very clear who I'm wanting to talk to. Because if you just say, like, God of Ravens, well, if you're looking at Norse mythology or Celtic mythology, that could be like a lot of different gods or goddesses, you know?
Oh yeah, because ravens are
So I
like a
think you're,
huge part of that
yeah,
kind of area.
exactly. I'm like, so I feel like that is something very important, like you were saying, is very specific, like, only this deity is called that.
Right.
Yeah.
I think
But
that's
that's kind of,
something that people don't pay attention to is there are so many different religions out there that you you think that if you pray, if let's say you're Shinto, which is the Japanese, what's it called, religion, with the polytheistic religion, they probably have a god of ravens or goddess of ravens, and you go to call them, and if you don't know their name and use their specific honorifics to get their attention, you could call something that you don't really want to be calling into your home
yeah,
or workspace.
exactly. Yeah. No. So I feel like that's like really the most important thing is making sure that you know enough about the deity that you're wanting to talk to before you try talking to them.
Right. And then even then, I would think probably feel the energy as you're working with it. Does it feel what you think it should feel like? Or if you've worked with that deity before, does it feel the same? I guess is a really good question.
Yeah. I've noticed like for me, the couple times that I have had like the like I call them like tricky spirits and stuff like that are trying to like impersonate somebody, which I think it's weird that they would try impersonating deities, but it's happened. It's weird.
Right.
But like it just feels off. Like it just feels like prickly almost instead of like regular.
Right. Because it's like, it's something
Or
me and you've talked about before when it's like you've worked with your gods and goddesses. Yours is more of a specific pressure on a body part, whereas mine
yeah, like
is like a specific emotion.
yeah.
Yeah.
No. So that's like one of the really big tells for that. It's like if it feels off or wrong, even if you think you're talking to the right deity and everything, go ahead and like close that down that session, it would be my feeling. Like close it down, do the thank you, goodbye, and do like cleanse the space and then give it a little bit before you try and contact them again. That's how I would handle it.
Yeah. Again, we don't want anyone summoning something in their home that doesn't need to be in their home. But that being said, too, I think something, because I think this is something I've actually talked to you about a couple times too, just like coming into a new space, like if you're moving into a new home. And this is actually funny because I think me and you have always had this kind of feeling is like when I first move into a new house, when I move in somewhere, I feel like someone's watching me for the longest time.
Oh yeah.
And I actually think I had you divine for me. And I said, all right, look, figure this out because I feel like I'm always being watched. I don't know what this is. This was in like the first 2 or 3 years of me living in the house. Come to find out, I mean, every home has a spirit that watches over
Yeah.
it. It's your house spirit, your house guardian. I don't think we figured out who it was or what their name was. I think they were very shy and didn't want to really give that information. So yes, you can speak this your house spirit and they can give you the information. But after that and kind of getting this idea of like, I just want to know what you're doing in my house. And I literally said, hey, I'm just living here. I'm not trying to do anything to upset you. If I do, please help me figure it out so I can fix it. And I haven't felt that presence in my house ever since. So it's kind of like it's like they accepted it that I'm here and they're okay with it. I think they just wanted acknowledgement that that was going on.
That's like a thing, like I think it's big in Norse paganism is having your house spirit, and a couple other religions, all I can't remember off the top of my head, but a couple other religions have that where like your house has its own personality, it has a spirit that watches over it. And you can build a relationship with that spirit. You can like talk to it when you're like, hey, this door is broken, we're fixing it, da da da. And you build up that relationship. And I don't know, I talked to my house and we've gotten through like 2 hurricanes without issues where some of our neighbors had damage. That, you know?
Oh wow, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I'm like, I feel like there's something more to that because like direct neighbors had damage and we didn't.
right.
So I'm like, I feel like
Yeah, there's something there about house spirits. I know there was a book I've read long time ago. I can't remember the name of it. It's killing me. The girl met her house spirit and it was some kind of I think house goblin or house brownie of some sort. And he's like, the only thing I'm really asking for is like milk and bread or something. And
I'm like,
I can't remember the name of the book, and it kills me now because I also discussed the laws of being, which is like no lock should be unlocked without a key. Do no harm to others unless you wish harm upon you. It
yeah,
was like a whole bunch of different like little rules, the little different laws that exist that kind of help. Like you shouldn't try to force a lock. You should use a key to unlock a lock because that's the reason the key was exists.
yeah,
And of course, the rule of three, which is the biggest one, is if you whatever you do, expect it to come back threefold upon yourself. So it's like if you cast harm on someone who doesn't deserve it, it's gonna come back on you threefold.
yeah. Well, that's
So
my thing. I'm like,
it's
I really believe in that threefold thing. It's like, I don't have to be going out there and being like, oh, this person did this bad thing. I'm gonna, do whatever. I don't have to do that. We don't have to do that
no, no, no,
because
no.
the world does it itself for the most part.
Yep, yep. Karma and dharma are very exist very much in this world. I'm just saying. So, but yeah. So just like we said, just basic practices. Make sure you kind of know what you're working with, who you're working with. If
Mhm.
something just doesn't feel right, it just
Get out.
get out of it. Like say thank you, goodbye. Do a little bit of cleansing of your house, like sage the area, Palo Santo the area, um, or something to that degree. Especially like just make sure you get into every little nook and corner and cranny of the little area that you're working in with it, just to
Don't
kind of
forget
make
your
sure that
dog.
everyone understands that like okay, if that was bad, I don't want this in my house at all.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And of course, different religions have you do different things. Like some people say you're supposed to say a prayer. Some people are like use a mantra, use a positive affirmation. It's really up to you and what you want to do. There was someone who I
Yeah.
used to watch on TikTok where when she would do her stuff, she would pray to the Archangel Michael to give protection of her home as she would sage and smudge and all that fun stuff. So there's a lot of different things that you can really do to kind of get it going. And again, like this episode's a very loose episode. It's just kind of like getting to know y'all, giving you a little bit of information, just let you know who you're going to be listening to, as we try to release once every 2 weeks and have a new episode for you to kind of hear.
A little teaser, see if you like it.
Do what?
Like a little teaser, see if you like us.
See if you like us, if you think the energy's there. Our
Yeah.
next episode is actually going to be about divination specifically. We're going to be looking into
Oh,
tarot cards and discussing some of that stuff. There's a whole bunch of different divination tools, but I feel like starting with tarot cards, which are probably one of the most biggest and mainstream items that exist out there, it's probably a
oh
good
yeah,
spot to start.
I would think so.
Because it's like we were discussing like pendulum work. There's different types of oracle cards, runestone. I've done I Ching before, which is basically taking 3 coins, tossing it, and how the coin lands on heads or tails depends on if it's some type of line, and then you like figure out the book and everything, or you look at a book and figure out what the design means. Which is more Chinese oracle than it is anything else. So
It was similar to like bone tossing.
yeah. Instead of using bone, you actually use coins because it doesn't look like you're doing divination if you're just flipping coins in the air.
True.
Because remember, we have to hide it. Witchcraft has not always been acceptable. Divination, oracle work, all that stuff. It's not been accepted very long. So it's kind of a what we do in shadows kind of moment, as why we have to keep it secret and keep it as plain looking as humanly possible. Was there anything else you wanted to say, Raven, before we do our closing prayer and head out?
No, I think this is pretty good for starting out. I like it.
I do too. I was kind of nervous about doing one, but then once I kind of got going, I'm like, this won't be that bad.
Yeah.
So, to all our friends who have joined us here at the Coven of Wing and Fang, we really do appreciate you sitting with us and keeping warm by the hearth. And with that being said, let's do our closing prayer with Freya, and we will have a good night. Freya, the flaxen haired goddess, beloved by cats, who is goddess of magic, war, and love, she who wears the falcon feathered cloak. Thank you for guiding us and through our work today as we discussed these things and kept ourselves protected from metaphysical and physical entities that could do us harm. Please give all who listen and hear these words protection through the day and give them the strength and an emotional balance that they need to get through their lives. If it's the design will, so mote it be.
Thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions, comments, or topic suggestions, feel free to reach out through the link in the description below. We'd love to hear from you. Blessed be and walk in light.